In a world filled with formidable fighters, the hoplites of ancient Greece stood out as some of the world's most deadly warriors. From the sun-drenched shores of the Mediterranean to the shadowed peaks of the Peloponnese, their reputation was legendary. In the fierce city-state of Sparta, these hoplites were more than just soldiers, they were the elite. Trained from a young age in the art of war, their discipline, courage, and skill were unmatched. Their iconic shields, known as aspides, and their long spears, or dori, weren't just tools of war, they were symbols of a warrior culture that would leave an indelible mark on history. Join us as we journey back to a time when the clash of shields and the roar of battle echoed across ancient Greece, and the hoplites reigned supreme. Hoplites were the backbone of ancient Greek city-states, citizen soldiers primarily equipped with spears and shields. These warriors utilized the phalanx formation, a strategic arrangement that allowed them to be effective in battle even with fewer numbers. This formation emphasized unity, as any individual action could disrupt the phalanx and diminish its power. The majority of these hoplites were free citizens, often farmers or craftsmen, who could afford their own armor and weapons. This meant that a significant portion of the city-state's adult male population could be mobilized as hoplites. However, most of these men weren't career soldiers and had limited military training. Some city-states, like Athens, Argos, Thebes, and Syracuse, did maintain elite units known as the epilektoi or chosen ones, selected from the general hoplite ranks. By the 8th or 7th century BC, the phalanx formation became a staple of Greek warfare. Its effectiveness was showcased when the Athenians used it to repel the Persians at the Battle of Marathon in 490 BC. The Persian archers, with their weaker bows, found it challenging to breach the solid wall of Greek shields in the phalanx. This formation was again crucial in iconic battles like Thermopylae in 480 BC and Plataea in 479 BC during the subsequent Greco-Persian War. The unique political landscape of ancient Greece, dotted with rival city-states, meant conflicts were frequent but often limited in scale. Most Greek city-states couldn't maintain large standing armies due to their reliance on citizen soldiers, many of whom were farmers or craftsmen. These men would return to their professions after a military campaign. Every hoplite was duty-bound to serve when called upon. Sparta's citizens were legendary for their lifelong dedication to combat training, while Athenians could retire from service at age 60. This structure often limited military campaigns to the summer months. Armies typically marched straight to their destinations, sometimes even agreeing on the battlefield in advance. Battles were strategically fought on level ground, with hoplites favoring terrains that protected their flanks. The Battle of Thermopylae is a prime example, where Spartans chose a narrow pass to defend against the vast Persian force, holding them off for 7 days. Battles were meant to be decisive. They were short, intense, and demanded discipline. The battlefield was chosen to favor phalanx warfare. When cavalry was present, it protected the phalanx's flanks, pursued retreating enemies, or covered retreats. Light infantry played a secondary role, skirmishing before the main engagement and then guarding the phalanx's flanks and rear. The Spartans' phalanx was a rectangular formation, organized deeply and spanning a wide front. The two opposing lines would close in, using their spears effectively while also defending with their shields. The soldiers in the rear motivated those in front, as many were close community members. At times, the phalanx would collectively push forward, using their combined weight to instill fear and disrupt the enemy. If a line broke, the defeated would often flee, pursued by light troops. A hoplite's shield, carried on the left arm, protected both himself and the soldier to his left. This left the rightmost soldiers vulnerable, a weakness opponents often sought to exploit. Battles would sometimes drift to the right as hoplites tried to stay behind their neighbor's shield. The most skilled hoplites were thus positioned on the right. As Plutarch noted, a shield was carried for the sake of the whole line. The phalanx marked a shift from individual heroism to collective warfare. While unity was crucial, individual combat skills were still vital. At times, hoplites would space out to effectively use their shields and swords. This individual combat prowess is evident in accounts like Herodotus' description of the Battle of Thermopylae, where certain Spartans were singled out for their exceptional skills. In phalanx warfare, while unity was paramount, individual valor and skill played a significant role. The effectiveness of a phalanx depended on discipline, courage, and the ability to maintain formation. The stronger the unity and courage, the higher the chances of victory. However, individual combat skills were essential, especially during moments when hoplites had to space out for effective combat. This balance between collective strategy and individual prowess defined the essence of hoplite warfare. Hoplites were unique in that they supplied their own gear. This meant that only those with the means to acquire such equipment could serve as hoplites. Much like the Roman Republican army, it was predominantly the middle class that made up the infantry ranks. While there were general trends in equipment design over time and across different city-states, there was no standardization. Hoplites took pride in personalizing their armor. Their shields often bore family or clan symbols, though in later periods, these were replaced by city-state emblems. Given the expense of producing such gear, it was often handed down through generations. The defining characteristic of hoplites was their role as heavy infantry. Their armor, known as the panoply, varied based on one's wealth. The affluent might don a full bronze suit, weighing up to 70 pounds. However, the more economical and commonly used armor was the linothorax, made of layers of linen. The average hoplite, often a farmer or peasant, might only afford a shield, spear, and perhaps a helmet and a secondary weapon. The wealthier hoplites could showcase bronze cuirasses, helmets with cheekplates, greaves, and other protective gear. Helmet designs evolved over time, from the standardized Corinthian helmet to the lighter Chalcidian and the straightforward pilos. These helmets were often adorned with horsehair crests, bronze animal features, and even paint. Another variant, the Thracian helmet, had a pronounced visor for added protection. The linothorax, made of thick linen, became popular in later periods due to its durability and cost-effectiveness. In contrast, other contemporary infantry units, like the Persians, were lightly armored. They wielded wicker shields and were equipped with shorter spears, javelins, and bows. The Peloponnesians stood out among these, armed with light shields, javelins, and short swords, and wearing no armor. Athenian general Iphicrates innovated by equipping his mercenaries with lighter linen armor, smaller shields, and longer spears. He also upgraded his Peloponnesians with larger shields, helmets, and extended spears. This revamped force notably defeated a Spartan army in 392 BC. However, the equipment described was most typical for hoplites. Hoplites wielded a distinctive large, concave shield known as the aspes. While some mistakenly call it a hoplon, its true dimensions ranged from 80 to 100 centimeters across, weighing between 6.5 to 8 kilograms. The shield's unique design, allowing it to rest on the shoulder, made its size manageable. Crafted in 3 layers, the aspes had a thick wooden core, a bronze exterior facing the enemy, and an inner lining of leather. What set this shield apart was its innovative grip, termed the argive grip. Positioned at the shield's edge, the grip was complemented by a leather strap at the center, securing the forearm. This dual-contact design ensured the shield remained steady, even after a forceful impact, preventing soldiers from easily losing their shields. This design not only enhanced the hoplite's mobility but also amplified the shield's offensive potential, reinforcing the phalanx's strength. Indeed, these large, forward-pushing shields were the cornerstone of hoplite warfare. The primary weapon of the hoplite was the doru, a spear ranging from 2.5 to 4.5 meters in length and about 2.5 centimeters thick. Held in the right hand, the left was reserved for the shield. As hoplites approached their foes, they typically held their spears underhand. But when in close combat, they switched to an overhand grip, poised to strike. The spear's tip was designed in a leaf-like curve, while its rear featured a spike known as the sauroder, or lizard killer. This spike served multiple purposes. It allowed the spear to be planted in the ground, acted as a backup weapon if the main shaft broke, and was used by rear phalanx ranks to dispatch enemies beneath their advancing feet. Contrary to some beliefs, the sworder's role wasn't for throwing but to balance the spear. Historians often debate the hoplite spear usage. Was it overarm or underarm? The answer likely depends on the situation. An overarm thrust, while more powerful, could be less controlled. It would be more effective in breaking an opponent's guard. The underarm method, on the other hand, provided better shock absorption and stability, especially when the spear was tucked under the shoulder. In the chaos of battle, if the shield wall was compromised, the overarm technique allowed for a better synergy between the aspes and doru. However, for those in the phalanx's rear, overarm thrusts were the norm. These soldiers also adjusted their shields at varying angles, creating a protective canopy against incoming projectiles. Beyond their primary spear, hoplites were equipped with a sword, typically the short-bladed xiphos. This was their backup weapon, coming into play if their spears were lost or shattered, or in the event the phalanx formation was disrupted. The standard xiphos had a blade about 60 centimeters in length. Intriguingly, the Spartans favored a much shorter variant, often just 30 to 45 centimeters long. In the tight confines of clashing hoplite lines, this compact blade was ideal. It could be swiftly thrust through gaps in the enemy's shield wall, targeting vulnerable areas like the throat or groin. The shorter blade was especially handy as many hoplites began to forego body armor during the Peloponnesian War. Some hoplites chose to carry the kopis instead, a hefty knife characterized by its forward-curving blade. The sword's protective sheath was known as the kolios. The evolution of Dark Age warfare culminated in the emergence of hoplite warfare in the 8th century BC. The reasons and pace of this transformation have been subjects of intense debate among historians and scholars for years. Currently, there are three prevailing theories on this topic. The first theory, proposed by Anthony Snodgrass, is known as the gradualist theory. It suggests that the hoplite style of combat evolved progressively due to advancements in armor and weaponry. By meticulously dating archaeological discoveries of hoplite gear, Snodgrass estimates that this transition spanned roughly a century, from 750 to 650 BC. As the phalanx formation matured, it demanded denser ranks, prompting elite warriors to enlist ordinary Greek citizens. Distributing the vast quantities of hoplite armor to these citizen soldiers further extended the time needed for the phalanx's full implementation. Snodgrass contends that it was only after this widespread armor distribution that the phalanx formation truly gained traction. The second theory, known as the rapid adaptation model, comes from historians Paul Cartledge and Victor Hansen. They argue that while the phalanx might have been innovated by specific military forces, its sheer effectiveness forced others to swiftly adjust their combat strategies to counter it. Advocates of this theory suggest that the introduction of the double-grip shield, essential for the phalanx, drastically limited a soldier's mobility. This made the more fluid warfare of the Dark Age ill-suited to face off against hoplites, accelerating the shift towards the new style of combat. As a result, the phalanx formation and hoplite armor rapidly became the standard across ancient Greece. According to Cartledge and Hansen, this transformation occurred between 725 and 675 BC. The third theory, known as the extended gradualist theory, is presented by Hans van Wees and offers the most extended timeline for the transition. Drawing from iconography on Dark Age pottery, Van Wees posits that the seeds of the phalanx formation were sown during this era. He points to the Chigi vase, which depicts hoplite soldiers carrying both regular spears and javelins on their backs. Notably, seasoned hoplites didn't carry long-range weapons like javelins. The significance of the Chigi vase is profound, as it provides a rare, if not singular, depiction of the hoplite phalanx formation in Greek art. This imagery suggests a shift from the long-range warfare of the Dark Ages to the close-quarters combat emblematic of hoplite warfare. Further evidence of this transitional phase can be found in the writings of the Spartan poet Tyrtaeus, who mentions the impact of missiles and stones, a detail absent in his other texts. This hints at a period where hoplites retained some ranged capabilities. Extended gradualists believe that the true phalanx didn't emerge until the 5th century BC, suggesting a transition period spanning an impressive 300 years, from 750 to 450 BC. The precise origins of hoplite warfare remain a topic of debate, with most theories suggesting its emergence in the 8th or 7th century BC. This shift marked a departure from the heroic age to a more structured system, coinciding with the popularity of the Argive shield. Peter Krentz posits that the ritualistic nature of hoplite warfare only took shape after 480 BC, when non-hoplite arms started being excluded from the Phalanx. Recent archaeological findings by Anagnostis Agilarakis, particularly a monumental polyandrion on Paros Island, hint at a hoplite phalangeal military organization as early as the last quarter of the 8th century BC. The trajectory of hoplite warfare mirrored the rise and fall of the city-state. Initially a response to skirmishes between these city-states, the nature of warfare evolved as Greece faced external threats, notably the Persians. Given the vast numbers of Persian forces, individual city-states couldn't stand alone. During the Greco-Persian Wars, city-state alliances, constantly shifting in composition, united against the Persian threat. In these confrontations, the hoplite phalanx consistently outperformed Persian infantry, as seen in the battles of Marathon, Thermopylae, and Plataea. However, the post-Persian Wars era, marked by the rivalry between Athens and Sparta, saw a shift in warfare dynamics. The Peloponnesian War, a large-scale conflict between city-state leagues led by Athens and Sparta, brought about a diversification in warfare. The traditional hoplite warfare began to wane. Major battles in this war failed to be decisive. Instead, there was a growing emphasis on naval forces, mercenaries, city fortifications, siege tactics, and guerrilla warfare. The nature of warfare became more attritional, leading to higher casualties. Facing skirmishers and missile troops, hoplites adapted by wearing lighter armor and focusing on mobility, giving rise to the ekdromos, or light hoplite. It's worth noting that many renowned figures from Greek history, including philosophers, artists, and poets, once stood in the ranks of hoplites. Nephiotkin suggests that the Persians, after clashing with Greek heavy infantry, were inspired to introduce the scythe chariots. Sparta stands out as one of the most iconic city-states of ancient Greece, rivaling the fame of Athens. But what set Sparta apart was its unique military culture. Unlike other city-states where military service was part of civic duty, in Sparta, free citizens were dedicated hoplites throughout their lives. This continuous training and exercise in times of peace endowed Sparta with a professional and ever-ready army. Though its size varied, with a peak of around 6,000 soldiers and at times dwindling to a mere 1,000, this army, divided into 6 battalions or more, was renowned for its unparalleled discipline and fierce prowess. In Sparta, the military wasn't just a duty, it was the very essence of male citizenship. For a Spartan hoplite, military service extended from youth until the age of 40, and in some cases, if a man remained physically fit, even up to the age of 60. As the hoplite era matured, advanced tactics began to emerge, notably under the guidance of the Theban general Epaminondas. These innovative strategies caught the attention of a young hostage in Thebes at the time, the future king Philip II of Macedon. Inspired, Philip II went on to refine the infantry, giving birth to the Macedonian Phalanx. Following the Macedonian conquests in the 4th century BC, the traditional hoplite began to fade, replaced by the phalangite, armed in the Macedonian style, in the armies of southern Greek states. The Macedonian phalanx, an evolution of the hoplite, was more versatile in battle, especially when integrated into the combined arms approach favored by the Macedonians. This shift in military strategy culminated in the Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BC, where the last significant hoplite army was defeated, leading Athens and its allies to join the Macedonian Empire. While Alexander the Great's primary force consisted of pezzeteroi, or foot companions, his ranks also included traditional hoplites, sourced either from the League of Corinth or as hired mercenaries. In addition to these, the Macedonians deployed the hypaspists, an elite unit that possibly began as hoplites. Their primary role was to safeguard the vulnerable right flank of Alexander's phalanx. The influence of hoplite warfare extended far beyond the borders of Greece, shaping the military strategies of several Mediterranean nations. Until the early 3rd century BC, hoplite warfare was the predominant combat style across much of the Italian peninsula, adopted by both the Etruscans and the early Roman legions. However, the Romans, recognizing the limitations of this style on their rugged terrains, transitioned to the more adaptable maniple system. Their weaponry evolved too, with a shift from spears to swords and heavy javelins, known as the pilum. Yet, remnants of the hoplite style persisted. The Roman triarii, for instance, retained the long spear or asta and continued to fight in a phalanx formation. While many Italian factions embraced this hybrid warfare, some, like the mercenaries under Pyrrhus of Epirus or Hannibal, remained true to the hoplite tradition. Ancient Carthage, in its early days, mirrored the Greek hoplite style, with elite units like the Sacred Band of Carthage. Greek hoplite mercenaries were in high demand, serving in diverse armies from Carthage to the Achaemenid Empire. Some historians even suggest that these mercenaries might have inspired the Cardaces formation. The 4th century saw hoplites serving under the Illyrian king, Bardalus. The Illyrians, known for their adaptability, often incorporated Greek weapons and tactics into their arsenal. The Diadochi, successors of Alexander the Great, introduced the Greek phalanx to their respective kingdoms. While they primarily deployed Greek citizens or mercenaries, they also trained local populations in hoplite warfare or the Macedonian phalanx style, as seen with the Machemoi in the Ptolemaic army. During the Hellenistic era, while many Greek armies predominantly adopted the style of the Macedonian phalanx, traditional hoplite warfare still held its ground in many parts of mainland Greece. This period also saw the emergence of 2 new classes of hoplites, the Thureophoroi and the Thorakitai. Their evolution was sparked by the Greek adoption of the Galatian thureos shield. This oval-shaped shield bore a resemblance to Roman shields but was flatter in design. The Thureophoroi, equipped with a long thrusting spear, a short sword, and, when necessary, javelins, served as versatile infantry. On the other hand, the Thorakitai, whose name hints at their heavier armor, typically donned a chainmail shirt. These units acted as a crucial bridge between the light infantry and the phalanx, effectively filling the gaps as medium infantry. Thank you for watching this episode of History Uncovered. We've journeyed through the evolution and influence of hoplite warfare, and we hope you found this exploration both informative and engaging. If you did, please like and subscribe to our channel for more captivating tales from history's vast tapestry. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications so that you never miss a new video. As we wrap up, the algorithm suggests another intriguing episode for you. Check it out on the screen now, we think you'll enjoy it.